When you think about mid-air refueling, it's kind of like this incredible ballet in the sky. It's a high-stakes procedure that basically gives military power its global reach. But it is also, without a doubt, incredibly risky. Today, we're going to take a closer look at this complex operation, but we're going to do it through the lens of a recent tragedy, one that really reminds us of the fine line these crews walk between routine and disaster. And let's be clear, this isn't just a technical breakdown. At the heart of this story, there's a real human cost. 6 U.S. service members lost their lives in an instant. And that number, 6, that's the reason we really need to understand not just the mechanics of their job, but the immense gravity of their mission. All right, so let's start with what we actually know. First up, the fatal incident itself. We'll break down the facts just as they were reported by military officials. So, according to U.S. Central Command, the official term used was an unspecified incident. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means 2 aircraft were operating in friendly airspace over western Iraq, supporting operations in the area, and something went very wrong. That vague phrase, unspecified incident, that's really where the whole mystery begins. And here's how it played out for the 2 planes. One of them, the big refueling tanker, crashed. It's just a tragic outcome. The second plane, which was either being refueled or was waiting nearby, it managed to land safely. And its crew? They instantly became the most important witnesses to whatever happened up there. Now, investigators released one really critical piece of information almost immediately. This was not caused by enemy fire, or even friendly fire. That's huge, right? Because it takes combat completely off the table. Suddenly, the whole investigation pivots inward. Are we looking at a mechanical failure, a problem with the plane itself, or did something go wrong during the incredibly delicate refueling procedure? Okay, so let's get into the specific aircraft at the center of all this. We're talking about the KC-135 Stratotanker. And let me tell you, this thing is an absolute workhorse for the U.S. Air Force. I mean, this plane has an incredible history. It's been in service since the 1950s. Think about that, the 50s. And decades later, it's still out there, actively flown by the Air Force, the Air National Guard, and the Air Force Reserves. It's a real testament to its tough design. But, it also makes you think about the age of some of this equipment. And you might think, well, aren't there newer planes now? And yeah, there are, like the KC-60A Pegasus. But here's what the experts say. The fundamental process, the actual nuts and bolts of refueling, is extremely similar. At the end of the day, the core challenge is the same. You've got to pass thousands of pounds of jet fuel from one giant plane to another, all while flying thousands of feet up in the air. So how in the world does this high-wire act, this mid-air dance, actually work? Let's break down the whole procedure, step by step. All right, the single most important piece of gear here is something called the boom. And don't just think of it as a long gas pump nozzle. It's way more sophisticated. It's extendable, sure, but the key word here is flyable. There's actually a crew member, the boom operator, who is literally flying this thing through the air to make the connection. It's a wild job. So here's how it goes down. First, the tanker gets into position. Then, the boom operator starts flying the boom toward the other plane. They have to make these tiny, precise adjustments to line it up perfectly with the refueling port. Once they're locked in, boom, thousands of pounds of fuel get transferred. And as soon as it's done, that fighter or bomber peels off and the next plane in line has to slide into that exact same incredibly tight formation. It's just precision. Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks absolutely insane, right? Incredibly dangerous. But this quote from an aviation expert really hits the nail on the head. For these crews, after all the insane amount of training they go through, this becomes standard procedure. It's a routine, but a routine built on a foundation of just unbelievable skill and countless hours of practice. But even standard procedure has risks. And when something does go wrong, the cost is just deeply personal. Because behind all the amazing machinery and the technical skill, what this is really about are the 6 people who paid the ultimate price. So let's take a moment to remember them. The Pentagon identified the crew, 6 service members from all over the country. Major John Clennard, Captain Ariana Savino, Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, Captain Seth Koval, Captain Curtis Angst, and Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons. Each one with a family, a life, a story. We just want to honor their service and their sacrifice. They came from 2 different units, the 6th and 121st Air Refueling Wings. These were total professionals brought together for a mission that is absolutely vital to national security,
but one that, as we've seen, always carries risk.
And that really brings us back to the central question, doesn't it? The investigation is still ongoing, and it's going to take a long time to get the full picture. But it really makes you wonder, what could have happened? What tiny thing could have gone wrong during a procedure that's so standard and yet so unbelievably dangerous? What's that chain of events that turns a routine flight into a national tragedy? It's just a very sobering reminder of the razor's edge these crews operate on every single day.